Hey there, California dreamers. Welcome back to Paradise Pier. I know it's been a long time. This is episode 5, and we're back after about a year's worth of hiatus. Yeah, that sometimes happens with these projects. I sometimes run out of steam, and seem to be in a good kind of kick right now, so I wanted to get some more episodes out. Last time I worked in this park, we did this awesome kind of Spanish Revival carousel in the main midway there, landscaped it out to be a little bit more California and just a little more lush. We started this kind of bathroom area back here, and we left off here. And so we got a few things done in the first few episodes. We got this big kind of marquee done here, got all the lighting, and on the inside it looks great. On the outside it looks bad. This is the best way I can describe it. It is bad. It needs to be covered. There needs to be a transition point to get over here. This is supposed to be a Fastpass bridge, and then what it's going to do is it's going to shear off this way, so that basically the person with Fastpass does not have to wait in nearly a big enough line. Here, the main kind of queue is the one that snakes around and goes past the train here, or at least this little helix here. And then it kind of falls down and underneath the main path. And then in here, this is something that I wish more attractions would do, especially ones that kind of blur the outside and inside. Here is where I want to have a rather climate controlled part of the queue, and so it's going to be kind of in the caves and stuff like that. And I realized that probably the most unrealistic portion of this ride, despite, or the straight station is unrealistic. It would definitely have a switch track or something like that. The biggest unrealistic thing is that I've had to go so far down, and then I have to go so far up. So I'm making people traverse a pretty good area of elevation. That wouldn't necessarily be good design. But I liked the way, I know I'm trying to defend this bad practice, but I really liked the way that everything was layered up. And the way that I see this is all going to be rock work, and it's going to fill up a lot more than what it looks like right now. I have to finish this kind of railing. Gotten a little better at it now that I understand the tools a little bit better. So I definitely have to finish up this outside queue area, and this may be a few episodes, because I usually give about 6 hours of work time per episode, and this is a large area. If we take a look at just how much space there is to fill up, as opposed to like this little entry area, even though it's very dense and it took a long time to make, it's not nearly as big. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pass here and say that this is probably going to be part 1 of part 2 and possibly part 3, because this coaster is going to take a while to really complete. We'll initially get the whole kind of station and the queue in, and then eventually we will get the whole thing supported and then themed. And I have some really cool ideas for this. I contacted Remnant again for another dome design in this area, and so we'll see what he comes up with there. And then there is also, I want to create some themed tunnels on the lift, and I've been playing with some of the TMTK items. Hey! Remember, TMTK was not a thing on the last episode, and now it is, and now it's firmly kind of in the Planco universe now. But when I turn this off, I mean, the original California Screamin' had neon tubes, and I kind of thought that doing some sort of gradiated effect or something like that might be really cool. We'll see how it goes. Again, not this episode. This episode is focused around right here. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. So when I copied this railing over, it appears to have tilted instead of staying straight up. I'm gonna have to fix this. Ah, crap. Here we are a little further along. I've started working on this kind of rock edge here and trying to get an idea of what I can do with the rock work in general. I realize I'm probably going to have to change my terrain textures out to get a little bit more of this golden rock in there, because there's really no other way to build up without using terrain, and terrain and paths, as you know, they don't mix so well. So I'll have to figure that out, because I do want to have some control over the terrain shaping. I think that in combination with the rocks is going to look really good. I also got this bridge started here. I really like the Ghostbusters pieces, and I think it kind of says California there. California 90s. It kind of looks a little more 90s, but hey, this park was conceived in the 90s, so that's possible. Plenty of clearance though, so that shouldn't be a problem. So I started working on some rock work over here, trying to make these walls look a little bit, more natural and stuff like that. There is definitely a mixture of kind of artificial stuff. You'll notice that the Ghostbusters arches are gone, and I'll tell you why. I started putting some stairs in, just in case this part of the track ever valleyed, if it had some sort of problem and it couldn't make it back up. If this train was to fall into the pit here, they could easily be able to get off the ride and back up to the station and exit. Well, what had happened is the arch for the Ghostbusters piece was basically where this kind of step off was. So I ended up having to make a new kind of arch shape for it. It's a little rough right now, but it'll get cleaned up. And I've also started working on the rock work for the for eventually this whole thing's going to be rock work too. Okay, so if I pause it, I actually matched it so that if the train was to stop there, that people could actually get off and just step right onto this. I'll eventually have some railings and stuff like that, because I think you have to have something like that when you're evacuating people. There has to be something to hold on to, because there is a fairly large gap here, or a fairly large dip. I don't know if you necessarily have to have railings on this side, because if the train was to valley, then you'd have to be able to remove the railing. No, I think, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, you can do it in the comments, but I think I only need to have railings on one side, and then I can have this open on the other side. Otherwise, a lot of rides would have railings on the ride side, and that doesn't make any sense. All right, I've worked it out. Well, you'll probably tell me if I'm wrong. You'll give me many examples of why I'm wrong too. So you can get an idea of how this is kind of shaping up. So I've got a little bit of a pocket for landscaping, and then this whole area is going to be caved in, basically, and it's going to be a big structure in line with the station. And there's going to be some interior work on the inside of that cave. So here we are with the bridge fully idiot-proofed. I made the railings super high so that you cannot accidentally fall out. I feel like over an active track like that, there just needs to be, it can't be at hip height, it has to be at almost like shoulder height. And I use the same blues that I've been using over here. I'm using the same kind of light structures too, because I think it unifies the scene pretty well. And I did this little deco pattern because I wanted it to feel a little bit more period. I mean, there's obviously some, it's not exactly period, because what what park would actually build a roller coaster in a kind of a seaside cliff area? And then there's some thematic jumps that I'm having to make here, but I like the way it looks, especially when you come out of the dark area and you see all these lights and all these structures, and it's just a feeling of unity. And then if I turn around, wham! I actually closed off the building. This is a big one, because I didn't exactly know how I was going to close out the building, but I ended up going with the same kind of red on the roof structures and just closed out the dome here. I need to do the towers still, just don't look at that. But yeah, it's simple and it works. And I even, these are not going to stay here, these towers. I just wanted to get an idea of what the station might look like when it connects to this piece. And I still haven't quite figured out, like, this is old school Mike trying to work with paths. I've gotten a lot better at pathing, and I think I can do some really cool stuff. What I might actually do, now that I'm just brainstorming, I might put the path in this way, down and underneath and around this kind of structure because I can put like viewing windows on the inside, and there will be something to see on the inside there. I'm not going to spoil what it is yet, but if I can do it, it's going to be really cool. It's kind of like how Space Mountain used to have viewing windows before they closed it out. That's kind of what I want to do. So you'd see the trains going around the helix as you're walking away from the ride. And then all it would need to do is pull away here and then come to the gift shop here. Also worked a little bit more on the landscaping. Pretty simple palette. It's mostly palms. A few of these Joshua trees just for that kind of spiky look. And then I added a little bit of a flowering tree here just to kind of soften the lines a little bit. And the outside is kind of this... It's a little castle-y. I don't know. To me, it's working. I don't know if it's working for you, but generally, when you exit and you start moving away from the theme structure, they don't do a whole lot to the back anyway. So I think it works just fine. I think it's neutral enough to kind of fit into any style that I end up doing for the station, which I may also need to confer with Remnant on because he's very good at things. That's the understatement of the year. This was a bish. I couldn't have made this harder for myself because, again, I'm doing methods, or I'm working off of a design that I did about a year ago, and I've just gotten better at the game and how to manipulate it. And even though this angle looks very even, it's not. There are some big dips. You know, you can see where the train gets a little wonky there. So I tried my best to make it as even as possible. But here it is. The whole railing is done now. And it comes to a little concrete pad back here. I might do like a drinking fountain or something like that on this turnaround. And then it comes all the way down. And it pretty much shields off the coaster all the way to this additional rockwork here that kind of closes it off. And it just transitions from a more artificial and a little bit more decorative area to the... Get out of there. To the natural caves. You can also see on the top there, I've extended the support structure. I worked a little bit on making sure that this all fits together. The curve is easy because it's all flat and everything, so I just have to copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. I still have to add the handrails. There's still a lot to do. I think there's like lighting on each of these, and I've got to make track connectors and whatnot. But hey, it is better than it was before. It's gonna take a long time to support this damn coaster. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I have this side finished as well. The bridge is in a little bit better than it was. All the rock work is pretty much in. So if people are standing, I need to add the railing still, but if you know the rock work is nice and flat, the stairs are easily accessible, and you can get to this point. So if the train was to stall on this part, you also have a way to get back. Now, I didn't continue it down, A, because that would be incredibly difficult, but also gravity would take this train all the way to the natural block here. So then from there, I have that goes out to the launch track, and then I'll have a staircase that can get back up to this area in case they have to evacuate. So that's where that is, and so that helps to kind of bridge the gap support-wise there. Again, I still need to kind of do a few connector pieces. And it may not be a realistic support structure, but I'm working with what I got. And sometimes I don't want to call on the wrath of the coaster nerds because they're scary, and they want to do things that I don't necessarily want to dig into. I've also got this worked out a little bit better, so you can see the Fastpass line here. Ooh, you wish you were in Fastpass. And then what that's going to do is it's going to go into this cave structure, which is going to be connected to this whole thing, which is all a cave structure. This path is going to stay on the level and then head back into the station area. And what I think I'm going to do, this is a little brainstorming for next episode, because I can't get to the cave this time. It's going to take a long time. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and make it look like whoever designed this coaster and this attraction, because it is so it's kind of in that period of Victorian. The Victorians, they enjoyed like the wonders of the world, but they didn't necessarily understand how to do preservation or conservation. And so what I want this indoor kind of like sea cave to be is carved from the stone, so that it looks like a big atrium, kind of a Victorian atrium, but it's all in the stone textures and the stone colors, and it will have like little pieces of stone that feel like they've been carved from the inside. So they took this like beautiful wonder, and then they said, this needs to be Victorianized, and so they like broke the stalactites and made them into like fluted pillars, and the inside is like arched and stuff like that. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know exactly how we're gonna do it in this small of a space because these rocks are huge, but I think I can get it done. I think I can do it. I had to turn the coaster off. I had to break the line a little bit right here, just to try and clean it up a little bit. So this is what you kind of see when you're walking in to the cave section. Is it should kind of come up a little bit just to kind of hide the fact that I'm making the people walk so far down just to get back up to the station platform. So this is going to be the level on the inside of the cave. This is going to be the bottom level, and then it's going to, once it's done, this is like going to be the big cattle pen, but it's going to be a cattle pen like the Indiana Jones. Oh geez, what part of the queue is that? It's the part with the well, and the domes and everything, and so it's going to be like a circle cattle pen where it comes around and then it comes back around, so it feels like you're not walking back and forth. It's not quite the movie theater part of that queue, because that's a true cattle pen, but it's going to be something a little rounder. You can tell I have a thing for circles in this queue. I want it to be an interesting queue. I mean, this is supposed to be as if Disney Sea built Paradise Pier, and so I want it to feel kind of monumental and epic, and exactly opposite of what we actually received, which was cheap, tacky, and uninspired. Speaking of uninspired, here are the railings on the inside to kind of separate the Fastpass from the regular standby queue. And then I have done the same, just made them a little bit more bronze on the inside here. And here we are at the end of part 1. I know it's been incremental change for sure, but I have changed a few things out. I thought the use of the palms was getting a little repetitive, so I ended up putting the use of this particular palm was repetitive, so I put in more date palms, which I think are a little bit closer to the aesthetic of California. I raised this up. I ended up creating kind of a rock barrier there, and you can see that this whole back area is supposed to be rockwork, very tidy. This little mixture of railings is very common in theme parks too. So I've got like a rock edging here, and then I've got kind of this bronze railing, and then I've got a little wood peg. It was a good use of the pirate piece, which doesn't seem to get a whole lot of use. You can tell it's one of the early pieces because it is not pretty up close. I've got the towers fixed, so everything is nice and clean. The roofing is nice and clean. Pretty much everything in here has been cleaned up, made right, so that I can move on to the next thing. And I see I've been playing with the rockwork here too. So kind of rotating these pieces as best I can to get kind of smooth arches and some other kind of features. This rockwork is really good for that, actually. And if you haven't used it in a while, you might consider it. It's big, don't get me wrong, but you can kind of hide it into different spots. And you can see a little bit better how I want this area to feel very crowded as you come in through this whole kind of like little cave structure here. And then when you open up into, don't mind this path, but when you open up into the cave, then it opens up and it's a lot cooler and it's a lot more comfortable and definitely a lot less loud, because in these types of queues, I mean, the sound is just bouncing like crazy. Also got the whole area cleaned up here. I've got some landscaping in pretty much all the way around. I've started embedding some rocks in to get a little bit more of the sandstone look in there. Yeah, it's pretty much there. The biggest change though is at night, and I have worked on a little bit of lighting now that we have a few more options in the game. I will cover these up. Don't don't worry about the physical light fixtures being there. But this is the kind of lighting that I was thinking about doing for the rockwork and stuff like that, just to highlight a little bit more of the green that I had going on over here. But it's a very warm light around the lighting structures. And then pretty much all of the landscape and the cliffs and stuff like that are these visions of blue and green, and you can kind of see I've got over here a little bit more of that blue going on, molding around the rock a little bit more. And then on the kind of the showpiece there, so the tunnel is kind of that purple, and then the top has a little bit of that green and a little bit of that moonlight blue and stuff like that. So it's just it's very attractive and kind of active light system I've got here. I wanted to get a lot more of that kind of the effect that black light gives, which it sometimes turns things blue, but sometimes turns things really intense purple too. And another thing I might show in a half episode is just how I do some of this lighting. Like these fixtures themselves, without any sort of fill lighting, they can look pretty harsh. And sometimes the colors to actually blend on this rock and everything, there are multiple lights to get this look. It's not just the ones that you see, it's a lot of the ones that you don't see. And you'll notice I actually have this area lit up too. I just haven't created fixtures for it yet, but I will definitely do that. And you can see when it's all together, you've got this beautiful, like, sharp aqua light coming off the coaster. And then you have this kind of warm light breaking through and a little bit more of that kind of moonlight look hitting the rocks and stuff like that. It's just a very, I really like this. So I think that will do it for today. If you liked what you saw, you know what to do. I apologize for basically having 11-month gaps between this episode and the last one. I am going to try and make that not happen again. That's not my intention to make you wait that long. I think next time we'll do part 2 of the queue, which should be this kind of cave area, because I think it's gonna take some time, especially to tie all of these queues together and then work our way up to the station. If we can get some of the stations started too, that would be awesome. Because right now it's a bit of a mess when you look beyond. There's a lot of work left to do. And then when we look at the whole of Paradise Pier, oh my gosh, there's a lot of work to do. I might do another episode of grinding on California Screamin', and then I may have to do something else, because there's more parts to this park, and it's just, there's a lot left to do. So with that, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Good, bad, weird, inappropriate, whatever. They all work for me. Hope you have a great day. See you later, guys. Bye.